The links for Odysee and BitChute, or to send me your Comicscape project if you want a little editing. Those make for pretty fun videos. So you come to a French or English area, and then you complain about the fair-skinned, beautiful people of... Oh, wrong video. Social media seems to be more trouble than it's worth for a lot of these people. And if you're an actor, either be very careful or just have someone take over your media for you. You know, whatever they call those public relations people. They can probably, like, you have one PR guy handle social media for like dozens of people, just releasing little quips and clips and just little blurbs about upcoming movies and stuff like that. And like, you would know as a public relations, it would be like from the office of the public relations firm or something like that. And it would be, I don't know, it's like you would know, it would be enough to get your views out, not your views out there, but like publicize your thing. You got to be real careful with social media. So he has a problem with white people, the overwhelmingly white producers. And this is actually take two of this video because I did I made a few things. You can't joke around anymore. And you know, it's funny, you think about Seinfeld from the 90s. You couldn't do that anymore. And that's like, those are a bunch of far left whack jobs. And there were jokes in there that you couldn't do anymore. Anyway, if you don't like Canada or Hollywood's version of Canada, why don't you just make your own show? Doesn't diversity actually mean diversity? Shouldn't everyone be allowed to work on the show? Doesn't that really inclusion? Doesn't it mean inclusion? So the producers are probably, like I was saying, English, French, and then Jewish. And I looked up the writers lists, and yeah, there's a ton of not white people in there, but I think he just is looking at everyone with a certain fair skin and saying, oh, they're all white because they all look alike. It's not racist when we do it. Technically, I think some of them are actually Asian by way of Turkey, so maybe they do identify as Asians, but don't look it. Isn't it racist to assume that they don't identify as Asians? It seems like an obvious first point, but what if they do ID as Asians? What would you do then? I looked through the names. They're not all white people. And, you know, what would you do if you asked them, like, oh, we'd really got more representation? And they say, oh, no, it's cool. I identify as Asian. I am Asian. Oh, you... East, Korean. Yeah, I'm Korean. Oh, because you don't look. Are you being a racist? I'm just saying. It's a Korean show. We kind of like some Korean writers. No, that's cool. I'm Korean. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say when somebody flips the script on you? You're like, yeah, I'm a Korean writer. I'm using my Korean experience. I'm a Korean woman. You're literally a bigot. You're literally Hitler if you deny my Korean womanhood. And it gets into the interesting issue. If Elizabeth Warren can be as little as 1/4096th Indian and still take a real Indian's job from them, then how Asian do you have to be Asian? And if I'm 1/4096th East Asian, can I write for the show? What if I'm Vietnamese or Burmese or Laos or Cambodian or something, or southern China, like right on the border of North Korea? Can I still write for the show? No. You got to be like within the confines of South Korea. Doesn't Kim's Convenience Store need the diversity of French, English, and Eastern European Jews to really tell the Korean story? Isn't that what inclusion really means? In fact, why aren't there more Africans and Spanish in the roles? Don't you need Black and Latino diversity to fully tell the Korean story? What is Korean anyway? Aren't we all really Korean if we feel it? Don't we all trace back to a common ancestor, possibly the out of China theory? Turn their own stupid rules against them. And I say this as a woman of color myself. Always identify as a marginalized and oppressed POC, which I actually am. And if you question me, that is literally oppression. Actually, it sort of is. My ancestors were slaves. I have inherited trauma. And, what do they say? Diversity doesn't seem to be working. It seems like you want to use these words, but then you want tribalism, which I am absolutely all on board for. Get tribal. Absolutely get tribal. This diversity is clearly not working out if you you want to have these little Asian enclaves. Well, then, okay, then the Europeans get their own enclave, and the Africans get their own little enclave, and everyone gets their own little enclave, which is like, well, isn't that the opposite of diversity? Yes. Diversity is not de facto a good thing. It's clearly not working out. And I had to remake this because I made two little jokes that I did a racism. I didn't even think they were racist. And they weren't, because that's actually a power control term invented by Trotsky Bernstein about 100 years ago. Possibly invented by him. Probably invented by him. So he seems to not like people of Eurasian descent who are not Asian enough. And actually, Euro and Asian aren't that far separated. Okay, so speaking of tribalism, he took issue with the fact that a spin-off is being created for Nicole Powers' character, Shannon Ross. It's been difficult for me. I love and I'm proud of her. I want the show to succeed for her. I remain resentful of all the circumstances that led to the one non-Asian character getting her own show. Well, aren't you all Canadians? No, that's been bullshit right from the start. You're not all Canadians. You're not all Americans. If you're Chinese, you're Chinese American. If you're European, you're European American. This whole melting pot thing, it's been a farce from the start. Just go back to tribalism. It's like literally, physically, geographically split up, which I would have said was crazy 5 years ago, but I've just kind of given into it. So you're advocating for the interests of your in-group, for your in-group preference, but then you're mad when, I don't know who Shannon Ross is, when she is not of your group, and she is trying to advocate for her group's preference by getting a job as a spin-off show. You're not Canadians, you're Asian Canadians, and someone's an African Canadian, someone's a French Canadian or European Canadian. It's this whole thing is just been a failed bullshit experience. But the real issue is that he says he wasn't getting enough influence with the writing issues. So it sounds like they wanted to write the story. It's like they're actors. You're hired to be actors. Okay, it was always my understanding that lead actors were the stewards of character and would grow to have more creative insight as the show went on, explaining the actor in regards to how the characters were being represented on the show. This was not the case on our show. Yeah, just do your job. You're an actor. You're hired to speak your roles. They had like 65 writers on the show. I looked through the database. If they wanted you to write, they would hire you to write. Or if your ideas were any good, they would use them. How hard is that to realize? And ultimately, when it comes down to it, you've got to... Oh, Jesus. Alex, what does Asian fascism look like? That's Asian fash haircut. Jesus, writing is free. If you have a good ideas and you got a crew, you could put pilots on YouTube. And no, they're going to be very low budget. I'm talking about like doing it in someone's house. But the writing is free. And if you have good comedy and good storylines and that kind of thing, someone will pick it up, or at least give you a show where you have creative control. If you're working for somebody else, then don't complain about how they're doing it, because you're working for them. Start your own IP. It's not that hard. Kevin Smith seems to be a master of it, and there are other people who do stuff like that. No, you're not going to replace Hollywood with a $1 million an episode show, but you got a smartphone, and you probably have better equipment than just smartphones, because you guys are actors. It's like, get a camera, get a boom mic, get a little editing, and make 3 pilots and put them on social media. And if you can crowdfund it, great. Otherwise, someone may pick it up. Or maybe you just crowdfund it and you continue the show. If you're funny, if you can write, if your ideas are really that good, do what Comicsgate is doing. They're putting their mouth where their money is. They're saying, hey, the mainstream is so dog shit bad that we're going to make our own thing. We're literally going to build it from the ground up. We're going to build the audience, and we're going to sell this. We're going to create an industry and create an audience all at once. It's brilliant, because you realize there's a market out there and it's not being served because it's so... The people... Listen, I support... who's the guy? Cyborg actor? I support Cyborg, and I know it's like kind of a... like not a position of people. People are like taking the opposite side, at least like in this CG crowd. I support him because the people who run Hollywood, these Weinstein, cocaine sniffing, visiting Epstein's Island type of people... They're scumbags, and they've gotten away with horrible, horrible abuses of women and children for like 50 years. And so if the cyborg guy is calling out a little bit of Hollywood, and this guy, well, not this guy, not this guy's calling out Hollywood. He wants more creative control. Man, get your bag. Get whatever you can get. Advocate for your group, but then don't get mad when other groups also advocate for their in-group, which I think is just the way forward. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all on Odysee and BitChute when I inevitably get shown the door from YouTube.